All right, how's it going, everybody? My name is Jerome, and as I said before, today is the day where I finally make a video where I talk about basically how I've been feeling about this game recently and why I basically took a break from making videos from deck profiles and just about anything really. But I mostly just do deck profiles. So first off, I would say that I felt kind of overwhelmed with how the game was uh, ever since the beginning of May, I believe, or right around the end of April, because that was when we were getting the new pack, the new set, Cyberstorm Access, where basically we got like two or three, basically like two more decks, and then more stuff added onto the branded. And so I honestly didn't really know what deck I wanted to start off with playing, because honestly Pearly was pretty expensive, and then Super Heavy Samurais just seems like a lot of combos and stuff like that. And then on top of that, branded seemed like the easiest pick. But honestly, I'm just straight up kind of bored and over branded. I mean, it's been out for a very long time in my opinion, and I just didn't want to do it. But I just went ahead and played it anyways, and I just didn't really like it. First week I played it, and I said, yeah, it's basically the same thing as before, just a little bit more, I guess, consistent. And then, so I just said, wait a minute, why even try to play any of the new stuff when just Kashtira basically is still just the best deck? And a lot of people thought the same thing. They were just, wait a minute, it's probably good to pick it up now, probably learn how to play it, but not commit to it, because Kashtira is still just going to dominate everything, considering that now D-Shifter is really good and Droll is back into the meta. So I felt overwhelmed with that because there was just way too much stuff to learn, stuff like that. Like, I'm just now starting to learn how to actually play Super Heavy Samurais. I still don't even fully know how to play Pearly, and I'm just not really caring too much about learning how to play it, just because I seem to be doing just fine playing against it, and I don't see myself actually buying that deck because I think that it's way too overpriced for what it is. And yeah, and the biggest thing is that I've just gotten extremely bored because this meta is just so boring. Caster is just so it's just such a sleeper, man. Like, it just does the same thing over and over and over. It just summons out a Rise Heart, or it summons out Diabolosis, it locks your zones, or it just sits on a Macrocosmos and it's like, hey, have fun. And it's just like, cool, man, you're playing a deck that just banishes everything. There's no really, it's not that really interactive. It just sucks. And it's terrible to have a deck like that in the format, because if you try to play anything else, right, you're kind of handicapping yourself. Why would you handicap yourself when you can just play the deck that's basically giving you the handicap? So then just play that deck, and then just, now the only hard matchup is going to basically be the mirror match. Or if you just lose the die roll and your opponent just has full combo and you just don't have any hand traps or something like that, which is another reason why I don't like this format. It just seems to be so heavy on the hand traps and, on the die roll itself. If you win the die roll and you have at least, I don't know, maybe two starters and a hand trap interruption, you're more than likely going to probably win that match. But if you lose the die roll and you didn't open up a single hand trap and just a bunch of starters or something like that, you're going to more than likely lose that match. And it just sucks that it like weighs so much on the die roll, and it weighs so much on how many hand traps you open or your opponent, which that sucks. It's just so boring to have like a game that works like that, where basically it almost feels like skill is just irrelevant at this point, where it just comes down to just pure RNG. It's just like, why even play it when we can just roll the dice and whoever wins the dice wins the match? And it's almost like how it feels, and I don't know, it just doesn't seem fun, right? And another big thing too that I'm tired of with this format is that it just, not only does it come down to the hand traps, but it also comes down to what can you possibly summon out on the field, or what can you possibly like activate on the field that's going to cause your opponent to almost immediately scoop, because they can't like play the game at all. Every deck has their own little weird way of doing it. You have Pearlies that can summon a tower monster that has a bunch of stuff attached to it that basically would just cause your opponent to scoop if they don't main deck a single out to it, or if they just didn't open a single out to it. And they find themselves losing all their cards to the bottom of the deck because Nora just has so many stuff attached to it, right? And then you also have Branded, which it just keeps doing the stupid gimmick lock. And if it doesn't do the gimmick lock, they have another card that they can just substitute in for the gimmick if they just don't have one. And then we already went over Cashier. They got their little macro cosmos walking talking monster, right? And then they got Super Heavy Samurais out here just throwing down like 1500 negates, and it's like, okay, cool, we're back to what Drytron doing freaking Herald of Ultimateness or whatever it's called. And it just seems whack, right? It just seems whack. It's I don't know. Like, the one thing I do like about Super Heavy Samurais is, in my opinion, it's a little bit more fair. And I know it sounds kind of weird because it's like, hey, hold on, they're fair because they summon out all these negates. Yeah, no, because like, for one, they can't play a single spell or trap, so it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of like, it's cool because it's like it has its own little thing that it's doing, where it's like, oh yeah, you have to substitute all that for basically just this whole monster engine, and that's it, and a bunch of hand traps. So you have to rely on that, and I kind of like that. I like a deck that basically is forced to play just one kind of playstyle. But what I do hate, right, and I just hate it so much, is the fact that you can play a deck like Cashier, which has its own little mini engine, and then it can substitute it off the rest of its deck for whatever you want. You know, it can be hand traps, floodgates, whatever, you know. And it's just like, it sucks, it's boring, and it is weird because out of all the formats I've played in, this is the most boring and the worst one out of all of them. I hate knowing that when I go to a regionals, that I have no idea what I'm going to be playing against, right? I normally like playing in formats where it's like 3, 2, or just one deck basically that's in the format that's doing anything, because now I know exactly what I need the side deck. I just need to know how to play against those particular decks to beat them. And that's where skill, I think, takes its highest, right? We saw it with tier limits where skill was at its highest, in my opinion, because you had to know how to play the mirror match really good, and also how to counter tier limits if you didn't play tier limits. You had to, you know, it was a big thinking process, and it was great. And I thrived in that format. I had a blast. But then we get to these open formats where it's like, okay, cool. Tier got hit. All these decks are now playable. We can have fun, doing all these different kind of things. You know, we had a lot of fun ideas at the beginning, right? With ninjas and all this kind of stuff. You know, Cashiers came into the mix. Cool. You know, they were cool at first, but then quickly became boring. We had so many different variations of sprites that you can do. And it was cool. It was fun, exciting, right? But then after about 2 or 3 weeks, I noticed that this format is going to suck, because when you go to an event, you have no idea what to even side deck. If you go look at anyone's like side decks and stuff like that, everyone's is completely different. There's almost like no similarities between any of them. Some people would side deck a bunch of go second cards. Some would side deck a bunch of back row hate, maybe the mix of the two. Some people would just flat out just put a bunch of like go first cards in. Some people would just put in cards that help just the mirror match itself, and that's it. You know, it's all over the place. And the side deck has been the biggest issue for me in this format, is because I would probably put so much cards to help out where the main deck is lacking in. But then when I play against somebody like an event, I end up matching a deck that I just didn't take an account for, and I'm just like, here we go. You know, I'm playing against this deck, and out of all the ones that I thought of, I didn't think about this one, and now I'm going to lose to it because I just don't have an out to a single thing that it does, and it's like, cool. Or maybe I over prepare for a certain amount of decks, like this past regionals I went to. I ended up playing Cashier. Why? It's because you're kind of forced to play it in this format, unfortunately. So I ended up playing Cashier in the main event, and I built it to where basically it can compete against the mirror match, because that was what I noticed was the toughest matchup for me, was the mirror match playing Cashier. But I didn't end up playing against a single Cashier player. I ended up playing against nothing but Branded. Out of every regionals I went to, I've never matched a single Branded player. This is the first time that I go to regionals and I matched only Branded players. I don't know if I missed a memo that day or what, But yeah, it was nothing but branded players that I matched out of. I don't know. It was wild. And I was like, what the hell? Like, um, so yeah, I ultimately lost because basically I wasn't main decking Ash Blossoms. Instead, they were in my side deck. Because again, out of all the regionals and stuff like that I played in, I've always matched Castira. I always matched pretty much everything else under the sun. Sword Soul, all that. You name it, I played against it. But the one deck that I didn't, that I never really matched, turns out to be the one deck that I matched the entire time. And ended up losing because of Gimmick. Just summons to my field. GG. I mean, I can't do anything about that. And I really think that Konami has a huge problem on their hands. The fact that they didn't come up with the ban list as well, like as soon as they should have made it the day that the new set came out. They should have released it then, but they couldn't because they kind of, in a weird way, cucked themselves. They pretty much, they should have released it, but they couldn't because they had all these nats all in the same month as the time that the ban list was supposed to come out. Major L on their part. I don't know who is in charge of putting the dates for the times for the ban list to come out, and then the times for the nats and everything to be scheduled. It was a shit show completely, and I think that they should focus more on giving us an actual date of when the ban list comes out. They used to do that back in the day. I don't know why they don't do that anymore. They should just come out with an exact date of when the ban list comes out, so then people will have something to look forward to rather than sitting here wondering when it's going to happen, because we desperately need it. We desperately needed one during the tier format. We got one, but it really wasn't that big. It really wasn't a list at all. It was kind of like a laugh. It was just, it was a joke. Now we actually really need it because the game sucks right now. It's so boring. It's just trash. I mean, literally, if you wasn't a Yu-Gi-Oh player and you didn't know anything about the game, if you're just watching it from the outside looking in and you see someone summon a monster in your opponent's field, you'll probably sit there and be like, why did he give him a monster, right? But then when you have someone explain to you, oh, they gave him that because basically they're not going to be able to summon anything. They're not going to be able to play the game. You're going to sit there and be like, why is that not banned? Like, why is that legal? I'm not going to play this game because that's stupid. Like, I'm not going to play a game that I can't play, essentially. It's like, imagine that. Imagine you go and you buy a brand new video game, right? And you're like, dude, I can't wait to get on there and fucking destroy some people in online matches, right? And you're like, you boot it up and everything. You're like, yeah. And then you get in your first match and all of a sudden some guy on the other team just, I don't know. They just use their ability and it just makes your character stand there. You can't look, you can't shoot, you can't do anything, and you have to sit there and get your ass kicked for like 15 minutes straight. You would probably be like, all right, I don't want to play this shit anymore, right? And that's basically how I feel right now. I mean, it's just like, I kind of don't want to play it just because of cards like that exist. And the fact that we have decks that just have these stupid floodgate monsters or these stupid floodgate spells and traps that they can just abuse and they can get to immediately in the first turn. It sucks. And no one enjoys it. The person doing it doesn't enjoy it, and the person having it done to them doesn't enjoy it. And I think, and recently I saw a video that Joshua made on where he basically was like fixing the meta with his own ban list, and he had a bunch of cards banned. But the funny thing is that I 100% agreed with his ban list. We should have all the floodgates just immediately eradicated. We shouldn't have them anymore. We shouldn't have these one card starters anymore. We shouldn't have these one link monsters that just link off, summon, and then have an effect to get something else that leads into link climbing into these crazy cards like Access Code Talk. We shouldn't have that. It's bad for the game. It's bad for everybody. And I think that with all those gone, the game would be so much better, and it would just be fun. It'll be more competitive because now it's like, oh, I didn't just lose to a die roll. It's like I actually lost the skill. And it sucks because like I'm not trying to say that any of the players that I've lost to are like bad at the game or anything like that. Clearly they're good at the game, but it just sucks knowing that I didn't really lose because of skill. I lost because of a die roll, or I lost because they summon a floodgate card on my field and I couldn't play, or they, activated a certain card like D Shifter, and now, oh, look, my entire deck can't even work now. So that's a wrap. Like, I'm pretty sure all of you had that happen to you. And again, it's nothing towards the player. It's not the player's fault. It's Konami's fault for making these cards and allowing them to be a thing. So it's not my fault or anybody else's fault that's playing the game to abuse those cards, because, hey, you're trying to win, right? That's the whole objective, is to try to win. But it does suck knowing that this is what is happening. And it's just not fun. It's just not fun for anyone. I was super excited to be going to this YCS in Philly, but I'm not going to it anymore because I just don't want to have to be forced to play a certain deck like Cashier that I absolutely do not enjoy playing at all. And I don't want to play against the deck. I don't want to play against Branded. I don't want to play against Pearly, Super Heavy Samurai, none of it. Like, I just don't want to deal with it because it's boring and it's trash. It sucks. Like, it's just not that enjoyable, right? I think that if we had a ban list, I would definitely go to it. Like a new one, I would definitely go to it because I would know that Cashier would be hit. I don't have to really, I don't have to play that deck. I don't have to worry about playing that deck. I can just play, whatever the hell I want. I can play Dogmatica, have fun with that, or I can play Super Heavy Samurais and try to figure out, how that works on the fly because I still don't know how the damn deck works. But hey, I would have a lot more fun. But yeah, that's just basically how my thoughts about how the meta is. Let me know how you guys feel about the current meta. Are you guys enjoying it? Are you probably taking a break from the game? Are you waiting for the new ban list? Are you excited for the new ban list? Are you going to YCS or Nats coming up here soon? But anyways, if you do enjoy this little video, you already know what to do. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.